The social death after narcissistic abuse. There is a kind of death that happens before a person stops breathing. It happens when your name is still being spoken, but the truth of who you are has been buried under a story someone else created. It happens when you are still alive, still walking, still trying to explain yourself, but the people around you have already decided they know what happened. It happens when your reputation is destroyed, your community disappears, your friendships collapse, and the person who harmed you somehow becomes the person everyone protects. That is social death. For many survivors of narcissistic psychological warfare, the abuse does not end when the relationship ends. In many cases, the end of the relationship is when the abuser begins the final campaign, the destruction of the survivor's credibility, identity, and place in the world. This is not random, it is strategic. A narcissistic abuser understands that if they can control how people see you, they can control how people respond to you. They know that if they can make you look unstable before you speak, desperate before you ask for help, angry before you explain, dangerous before you defend yourself, then the truth will have to fight through a version of you they already created. That is why the smear campaign is so devastating. It does not only attack your reputation, it attacks your access to human connection. Friends become distant, family members become suspicious, mutual connections stop checking in, people you trusted begin repeating the abuser's language. You feel the temperature shift in every room, conversations become shorter, invitations stop, messages go unanswered, people watch you fall apart and then use your collapse as proof that something must be wrong with you. This is how social death begins. You are not only losing people, you are losing the version of yourself that existed in their eyes. You are losing your belonging, your credibility, your history with them, your right to be complicated, hurt, confused, traumatized, and still worthy of being believed. The survivor is forced into an impossible position. Stay silent and let the lie become permanent, or speak and be accused of being obsessed, bitter, dramatic, unstable, or unable to move on. Every attempt to clarify the truth is treated like proof of guilt. Every emotional reaction is used as evidence. Every breakdown becomes a public exhibit. The abuser creates the wound, then points to the bleeding. This is one of the most psychologically violent parts of narcissistic abuse. The survivor is not only trying to recover from what happened in private. They are trying to survive the public version of the abuse. They are trying to rebuild while being misunderstood. They are trying to heal while being watched. They are trying to tell the truth while other people punish them for disrupting the lie. That kind of isolation can be lethal. Human beings are not built to survive social erasure. We need connection. We need witnesses. We need people who can look at us in the aftermath and say, "I see what happened to you. I believe you. You are not crazy. You are not alone." When those people disappear, the survivor can begin to feel like they are disappearing too. This is why social death is so dangerous. It confirms the abuser's deepest message. No one will believe you. No one will choose you. No one will stay. No one will see past the story I told them about you. And when enough people turn away, the survivor may begin to believe it. They may start asking themselves if maybe they really are the problem. Maybe they are too much. Maybe they are broken beyond repair. Maybe the abuser was right. Maybe their life is not worth fighting for anymore. That is the second wound. The first wound is the abuse itself. The manipulation, coercion, humiliation, sexual violation, financial control, gaslighting, threats, and psychological collapse. The second wound is what happens when the survivor finally reaches for help and finds silence. It is the people who do not call, the friends who believe the lie, the family members who choose neutrality, the institutions that refuse to listen, the community that treats the survivor's pain like a public inconvenience. That second wound can be more damaging than the first because it happens when the survivor is already injured. It is one thing to be harmed by the abuser. It is another thing to be abandoned by everyone who should have understood that harm. It is one thing to survive the relationship. It is another thing to survive the aftermath, when the abuser still has your name, your image, your reputation, your social world, and your future in their hands. This is why survivors often sound desperate to be understood. They are not seeking attention. They are trying to recover reality. They are not refusing to move on. They are trying to reclaim the life that was taken from them. They are not obsessed with the abuser. They are trying to survive the social destruction the abuser left behind. Social death is not drama. It is reputational destruction. It is emotional exile. It is psychological warfare carried out through other people. It is the erasure of a survivor's identity after the abuse has already stolen enough. And it is one of the reasons survivors must speak. Because silence protects the version of events that almost killed them. Silence allows the abuser's story to become history. Silence lets the community believe it was neutral when it was actually participating in harm. The survivor speaking is not the problem. The smear campaign was the problem. The proxy abuse was the problem. The triangulation was the problem. The people who believed the lie without asking harder questions were the problem. The systems that refused to recognize the survivor were the problem. This is why the language matters. In Voiceless No More, The Legal War on Narcissistic Abuse, I write about what happens after abuse escapes the private relationship and becomes public destruction. The book gives language to the aftermath survivors are rarely allowed to name: smear campaigns, triangulation, proxy abuse, legal abuse, reputational homicide, institutional betrayal, and the social death that follows when an abuser turns the world against the person they harmed. Because some survivors do not only have to survive the abuse, they have to survive being erased afterward. And until we understand social death after narcissistic abuse, we will keep asking survivors why they are still talking instead of asking who tried to bury them while they were still alive.